Okay, so have you heard this? Scientists have actually built a completely new life form.
Really? From scratch?
Yeah, not just changed something that already existed, but built it.
Wow.
Yeah, from the ground up.
Mm.
With totally artificial components, like we're going deep on synthetic biology today. And,
Right.
you've sent over some fascinating articles and research on it.
Oh, it's really exciting, isn't it? I mean, this news is making big waves, but it's not like some out of the blue magic trick or anything.
Right.
It's the result of a long history of, humans trying to understand and ultimately like recreate what life actually is.
It really makes you think about those old stories of alchemists,
Yeah.
trying to make gold, but now it's like making life itself.
Yeah.
But where do we even begin with something so complex?
Well, I think one of the biggest leaps forward happened way back in 1953
Okay.
with the Miller-Urey experiment.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, like, we weren't even sure if life's building blocks could come from non-living matter at all.
Right.
They recreated what they thought was early Earth's atmosphere, so like a crazy mix of gases and energy, and boom, they got amino acids.
Oh, wow. So that was proof that the ingredients for life could just kind of like assemble themselves.
Exactly.
If the conditions were right.
Exactly. It really challenged, the prevailing thought at the time and really opened up this whole field of research into a biogenesis,
Yeah.
which is the study of how life arises from non-living matter.
Right.
And that's like directly relevant to what we're seeing today with this synthetic biology. It's all about understanding life's building blocks and how to manipulate them.
So how do we get from making a few amino acids in the lab to a whole synthetic organism, though?
Well, there were a lot of stepping stones.
Yeah.
But one that really stands out is the work of Craig Venter's team in 2010.
Oh.
They synthesized an entire bacterial genome. Basically, the instruction manual for a cell.
Right.
And they implanted it into a host cell. And it worked.
So they basically like rebooted a cell
Yeah.
with custom-made DNA.
Pretty much, yeah.
That seems like a giant leap from the primordial soup experiment.
It was the moment we moved from kind of tinkering with existing life to actually designing and creating new forms of life.
Wow.
And that kind of brings us to this recent breakthrough.
Yeah.
An organism with a completely artificial genome and unique metabolic pathways.
Okay, so this isn't just a copy of something in nature. This is truly
It is unique.
unique, something we've never seen before. What makes these artificial metabolic pathways so different?
Well, think of it this way. All living things, they need to take in nutrients and energy to survive, right?
Right.
Metabolism is how they break those down and use them.
Yeah.
This new organism processes energy and nutrients in a way that's unlike anything in the natural world.
So it's almost like it's operating on a different set of rules.
Kind of, yeah.
Does that mean it could have an impact on existing ecosystems if it ever got out?
That's a big question, and researchers are being extremely careful.
Yeah.
Right now, this organism can only survive in a very controlled lab environment.
Right.
But it does raise those important considerations about how we handle these new forms of life and what impact they could have.
Yeah. It feels like we're on the verge of something huge.
Yeah.
Something that could really change everything. And what's fascinating to me is that this organism can actually adapt in the lab. It's evolving just like natural life does.
And that's a key feature of life, isn't it? The ability to adapt and change over time. It's what has allowed life on Earth to diversify and thrive for billions of years. And the fact that we're seeing that same capacity in a lab-created organism, it's pretty remarkable.
It makes you wonder where we go from here. If we can create life, does that change how we define life itself? Like, where does the line between natural and artificial even exist anymore?
That's a question that scientists and philosophers are kind of grappling with right now, and it's a discussion that you, the listener, should be part of as well. Right. As we explore the possibilities of synthetic biology, we need to consider the implications not just for science, but for our understanding of life itself.
This is already so much to think about, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
Before we move on, I want to make sure we're all on the same page about why this matters to you specifically.
Right. Let's bring it back to you think about the potential impact on healthcare.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where diseases can be targeted with incredible precision using these engineered organisms.
No more side effects from broad-spectrum treatments.
Right.
No more struggling with antibiotic resistance. It sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's becoming increasingly plausible, and it goes beyond. Healthcare synthetic biology could revolutionize how we produce food, clean up the environment, and even explore space.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. I think we need a minute to process all of this before we jump into the ethical considerations and potential applications. We'll be back in a moment with part 2 of our deep dive into synthetic biology. Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm still kind of reeling from that last segment, like creating life in a lab.
I know.
It feels like we're stepping into uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Both scientifically and ethically.
It is uncharted territory in many ways, and that's precisely why the discussion about the ethical implications is so important.
Right.
This isn't just about scientific progress. It's about our values, our responsibilities, and what it even means to be human in an age where we can create life itself.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about those ethical concerns. You mentioned the potential impact on ecosystems.
Right.
But there's also the whole question of whether we're kind of overstepping boundaries by playing God.
Yeah, that's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, and it reflects a very real concern. For centuries, humans have held a certain reverence for life, considering it something sacred or divinely created, and synthetic biology kind of challenges that perspective.
So how do we reconcile those traditional beliefs with this new reality that we can design and create life?
Well, it requires a shift in thinking, I think, a willingness to re-examine our long-held assumptions about life's origins and what makes something natural versus artificial. It's a conversation that goes beyond the scientific community. It needs to involve philosophers, ethicists, and the public at large.
Right, because ultimately it's going to affect all of us if we're talking about using these synthetic organisms for things like medicine or environmental cleanup. We need to be sure we're doing it responsibly.
Exactly. One of the biggest concerns is unintended consequences.
Right.
We simply don't know how these synthetic organisms might behave outside of a controlled lab environment.
Yeah.
Could they mutate? Could they interact with existing organisms in unpredictable ways?
It makes me think of those sci-fi movies where a genetically engineered organism escapes and wreaks havoc on the ecosystem. Hopefully reality won't imitate art in this case.
Well, the possibility of unintended consequences is definitely something we need to take very seriously.
Right.
That's why researchers are working on building in safeguards, like making sure these synthetic organisms can't survive outside of very specific conditions, or engineering them with kill switches that can be activated if needed.
Oh, okay. Those safeguards sound reassuring.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are also concerns about how this technology could be misused. Could someone with malicious intent weaponize synthetic biology?
That's a very real concern, and it's something that security experts are monitoring very closely.
Yeah.
The same tools that can be used to create life-saving medicines could potentially be used to create harmful biological agents.
Right.
International cooperation and strict regulations are going to be essential in preventing such scenarios.
It sounds like a very delicate balancing act.
Right.
We want to foster innovation and explore the potential benefits of this technology, but we also need to proceed with caution and put the right safeguards in place. How do we even begin to regulate something that's evolving so rapidly?
It's a challenge for sure. Traditional regulatory frameworks often struggle to keep up with the pace of scientific advancements.
Right.
We need adaptable regulations that can evolve alongside the science,
Right.
while ensuring that research is conducted ethically and responsibly.
So it's not just about saying yes or no to synthetic biology. It's about having a nuanced and ongoing conversation about how we manage this really powerful technology. But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
I know a lot of the excitement around synthetic biology focuses on the potential for good.
Yeah.
Let's explore some of those applications in more detail.
Absolutely. One area where synthetic biology holds immense promise is medicine.
Okay.
Imagine a world where we can engineer microorganisms to target specific disease cells, leaving healthy cells untouched.
We touched on this earlier, the idea of personalized treatments with no side effects. Can you give us some specific examples of how this might work?
Sure. Let's take cancer, for instance.
Like that?
Currently, many cancer treatments like chemotherapy work by attacking rapidly dividing cells, which includes both cancer cells and healthy cells.
Right.
This is why chemotherapy often comes with debilitating side effects.
So how would synthetic biology change that?
Imagine engineering microorganisms that can recognize and target specific markers found only on cancer cells.
Okay.
These microorganisms could then deliver targeted therapies directly to the tumor.
Oh, wow.
Minimizing damage to healthy tissue, this could revolutionize cancer treatment, making it more effective and less toxic.
Wow, that would be a game changer for so many people.
Yeah.
What about other diseases? Could synthetic biology help us tackle things like infectious diseases or genetic disorders.
Absolutely. Think about antibiotic resistance, one of the biggest challenges facing healthcare today.
Hmm.
Synthetic biology could help us develop new antibiotics that target resistant bacteria,
Hmm.
or even engineer bacteria that live in our gut to produce their own antibiotics, boosting our natural defenses.
Okay, now we're talking. That sounds incredible.
Right.
What about genetic disorders? Could synthetic biology be used to correct genetic defects?
That's another area of active research while it's still early days. Scientists are exploring the possibility of using gene editing techniques like CRISPR to repair faulty genes.
Hmm.
Imagine a future where we can cure genetic diseases at their root, preventing them from being passed down to future generations.
This is all starting to sound a bit like science fiction, but it's clear that the potential applications of synthetic biology in medicine are enormous. But it's not just about healthcare, right?
Right. Synthetic biology has the potential to revolutionize many other fields as well, including agriculture, environmental science, and even manufacturing. We'll explore those in more detail in part 3 of our deep dive.
I can't wait to hear more. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our exploration of synthetic biology and the incredible future it might create. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey so far exploring synthetic biology.
We have.
From its early origins to
Wow.
the ethical dilemmas it presents. But
Yeah.
now I really want to talk about the potential, like the real-world applications that could change everything.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? We've talked about some of the medical applications,
Right.
but synthetic biology's reach extends far beyond healthcare.
Yeah.
Like, imagine a world where we can engineer organisms to address some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Right.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, let's start with agriculture.
Okay.
You know, we're facing a growing global population and a changing climate.
Right.
Both of those things are putting immense pressure on our food systems.
Yeah.
Synthetic biology could help us develop crops that are more resilient,
Hmm.
require less water and fertilizer,
Okay.
and can even fix their own nitrogen from the air,
Wow.
reducing our reliance on synthetic fertilizers, which contribute to greenhouse gas emissions.
So we could potentially have crops that thrive in harsher conditions,
Right.
require fewer resources,
Exactly.
and have a smaller environmental footprint. That would be a game changer,
Ah.
especially in regions struggling with drought or poor soil quality. Are there any specific examples of this type of research happening right now?
Absolutely. There's ongoing research into engineering drought-resistant crops like corn and wheat.
Oh, wow.
Imagine engineering crops that can withstand prolonged dry spells without sacrificing yield. This could be transformative for regions facing water scarcity, leading to increased food security and reduced reliance on irrigation. There's also exciting work being done with nitrogen fixation.
Okay.
Currently, we rely heavily on synthetic nitrogen fertilizers,
Right.
which are very energy intensive to produce and can lead to environmental pollution.
Yeah.
But what if we could engineer crops that could form symbiotic relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria, just like legumes do naturally?
It's fascinating how we're essentially borrowing solutions from nature
Right.
and applying them to our own challenges. It sounds like a much more sustainable approach to agriculture.
It is.
What about beyond food production? What other areas could benefit from this technology?
Well, think about the environment.
Okay.
We're facing a growing plastic pollution crisis,
Yeah.
with millions of tons of plastic ending up in our oceans and landfills every year.
Right.
What if we could engineer microorganisms that can break down that plastic into harmless byproducts?
So instead of mountains of plastic waste, we could have these tiny organisms doing the cleanup for us. That sounds almost too good to be true. Is anyone actually working on this?
There are research teams around the world exploring this possibility.
Wow.
Some are even looking into ways to engineer bacteria that can produce biodegradable plastics, offering a more sustainable alternative to traditional petroleum-based plastics. And it goes beyond plastic. We could engineer microbes to clean up oil spills, detoxify polluted water sources, or even absorb heavy metals from contaminated soil.
It sounds like we're talking about a whole army of microscopic environmental superheroes.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think about the potential for healing our planet
Yeah.
using these tools. But I have to ask, like, where does this all end? Is there a limit to what we can do with synthetic biology?
That's a question that sparks the imagination.
Yeah.
The possibilities are vast, and we're only just beginning to explore them. Some visionaries even talk about terraforming planets,
Whoa.
creating self-sustaining biospheres on other worlds,
Wow.
and engineering organisms that can thrive in the harsh conditions of space.
Now that's getting into science fiction territory.
It is.
But but who knows? Maybe what seems impossible today will become reality tomorrow. It's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting to think about the power we're wielding.
It is, and that's why it's so important to have these conversations now. We need to think critically about the ethical implications, the potential risks and benefits, and the kind of future we want to create with this powerful technology.
It's a lot to process, but I think that's the key takeaway for our listeners today.
Yeah.
Synthetic biology is not just some abstract scientific concept. It's a force that's shaping our world right now, and will continue to do so in really profound ways.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that we all have a stake in this conversation.
We do.
Stay curious, stay informed, and engage in the discussions about how we want to guide the development and application of this powerful technology. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of synthetic biology. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.